What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Aftersound here, bringing you another fantastic guest. Now, you might know Quantum Nachos from Discord. I think that'd probably be the main place, right? Quantum Nachos.
Yep.
Yep, you might remember him. He's very strong in the meme game, and was quite a vocal force, I would say, back during Mav Chat. But Quantum Nachos and I have been talking, I don't know, for maybe past year plus at this point, just kind of back and forth. And you've been in this game for a while and had reached out to me after I put out kind of like my 3-year journey, and kind of wanted to share your experience, which I thought would be really cool. So first of all, I want to welcome you to the channel, and yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing okay.
So how many years have you been in the game?
6 years as
6 years.
of the 9th this month.
The ninth this month. So that goes back to 2018, which is before there was an actual game, like playable game, right?
Yeah, when I first joined, it was actually a month or so before that I started uh, reading the stuff on the Discord and everything. There wasn't a game yet, but
Yeah.
when it finally started, I bought the pre-sale or what call it the
Like alpha or Kickstarter
starter deck. That's what
starter
they
deck. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, if memory serves, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I've only heard this. I obviously wasn't around back then, but it was like they started in May of 2018, where they sold something or they like announced the
it,
game, but it wasn't until
April
October.
or
Yeah,
April or
April,
May when
April and May.
when they officially started selling the packs. They had been talking to other people a month or two before that point, but I wasn't anywhere near that scene back then.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had only started Steam back I want to say February or something of 2018. So I
Gotcha.
really wasn't that involved with Steam at all. I basically just been reading posts here and there, and I happened to stumble on one of the posts about sea monsters at the time.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So you know what? Let's back up then. I'm curious before we even jump into like the Steam Monster Splinterland stuff. Like, what was your crypto journey? Right. I think a lot of folks know that I joined, or at least for me, I discovered Bitcoin maybe like summer of 2017 before the, or I guess during that bull run before the big massive run up at the end of the year. But where was your entry point and what got you into it? Just in general, and how did you like? So how did you discover crypto? And then how did you discover maybe like Steam specifically, since you're saying you started in February of 2018?
It's two different time frames. Somewhere I want to say like 2013, 2014, I had started hearing about Bitcoin. It probably was, I don't remember exactly what year it was that the first person bought something physical with Bitcoin with the pizza and everything. I want to say that was even earlier, but
I think
something
that was
after that.
2010, but yeah, yeah.
So something after that, it started getting more and more traction in the news, and I heard about it. And back then, I was not in any way. I mean, even now, I'm not in any way fluent in crypto in any capacity of knowing how to set up things, especially since I didn't have a credit card back then. And so I got a Bitcoin wallet back then, but I didn't ever get anything on there because I could never actually get it to work the way they claimed you could, get stuff with other people.
So this was
And
2013, right? Just to give context.
yeah, somewhere around then.
I mean, this
And
is like
so
super early. So
I kind of gave up then because I couldn't figure out how to do it, and I
okay,
didn't go through the motions of actually looking for forums that could go through it and all that. So then after that, it was always in the back of my head, but I didn't actually pursue anything else with it until about 2017 when CryptoKitties came out.
Okay, okay.
And so I tried again and failed miserably again, trying to make things work. And
CryptoKitties was on ETH, right?
yeah, it was on
Okay.
Ethereum. And I failed mostly because I still didn't have a credit card. And technically, I still don't have a credit card today, but I tried alternative ways of getting it via services that are like, uh, well, the easiest way I can think is like the Visa gift card kind of things, but it wasn't
Okay.
Visa. It was some other company, and they
Yeah, yeah.
screwed me over big time on it in the
Oh shoot.
process. You know, like the amount of money that I put in and what I actually got out of it was so tiny that I couldn't buy anything once I finally got it into crypto form. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha. Okay, okay.
And
I
so I was so frustrated because of that experience with CryptoKitties that I was looking for a different kind of crypto that wasn't so complicated, and that's how I found Steam in the beginning.
Interesting. Okay. I remember
Because
being because yeah, go ahead.
because Steam is was I mean, it's still out there, but nobody wants to use it now. But what came of it with Hive, Steam was one of the only ones out there other than like EOS at the time, which I didn't know about at that time, that there was no transaction fees. So there is staking involved in order to
Get resource credits.
yeah, get resource credits and use the tokens for certain things, but you don't actually have to spend tokens to trade other people, and that's what got me so hooked on it when I got into Steam. Is that was exactly the kind of crypto I was looking for. It's
Okay.
something that was not so complicated and so hands-on, for lack
Gotcha.
of a better word.
How because I'm curious. I was, I was using all different kinds of exchanges back then. I was like buying into a bunch of different projects. I'm kind of disappointed that I never even came across Steam at that point because I remember all the other ones, right? Stellar Lumens was popular, EOS, IOTA. There were a bunch that people just, everybody thought everything was going to the moon because that was like raging bull run similar to 2021. But how did you even come across Steam in the first place?
I was looking for other crypto games.
Oh, crypto games
And
specifically. Okay,
well, okay, let me put it this way. I was looking for other things to do with crypto
gotcha.
that wasn't just I'm going to buy this object, and you're going to sell it to me and I'll have it forever kind of thing.
Hmm.
I whole concept of an NFT back then was pretty much CryptoKitties. That was the only thing that anyone had ever at that time really thought of NFTs. I mean, I know there were some other things, but it wasn't as widely known back then. CryptoKitties was the one that broke out with everyone else.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I remember. I vaguely remember the time, but I wasn't. I just wasn't doing much with that.
So I would say the main reason I saw Steam and was like, I want to get in on this is because not only was it friendly for, people that don't know what the hell they're doing, but also the fact that it had the blogging system and it wasn't as robust as it is these days, but it was the closest thing I had seen to something like Reddit.
It had a use case compared to a lot of other
Right.
projects that
That
just
that
didn't.
was
Yeah, so many
And so even
promises.
though I didn't know any projects that were within Steam yet at the time that I signed up for it, I saw the Steam It, which was the Reddit clone that they had created, and went, okay, this is good enough to start with.
Hmm.
I could make some posts or something and start making some sort of something through it. And
Were
that's
you
why I got hooked.
okay? Were you posting a lot back then, or just like getting involved, or you were just kind of?
No, I was more reading than posting,
Hmm.
but and I didn't have the same username that I have now back then.
Gotcha. Okay, so you jump in, and people are still pretty hyped on crypto. I remember early 2018. We had peaked, or Bitcoin had peaked already. I think in like January of that year for the cycle, but everybody was still waiting for some other kind of run that obviously didn't happen. But the team announces Steam Monsters, or they sell packs or something like that, April, May, but you don't hear about it until September through a post on Steam.
No, I heard about it probably late July to August. I had first started seeing some posts of it, and I didn't look too much into it at that point, and it probably took me about a month of seeing the posts randomly pop up in my feeds to actually start paying more attention to it. I'm like, oh, they're actually getting to a point where they can actually make a game for it. Okay, now I'll start signing up for it
Yeah, yeah,
because at
okay.
that point they didn't have anything, and even then when I bought it the game wasn't ready, but Aggro and his hyper
Hyper sales, salesmanship.
hyper sales tactics won me in that that something was coming soon, and his definition of coming soon versus the real world is I mean that was probably the only time that he was semi correct because he said it probably around August, something that, that it was a month or 2 away from actually having a game going, and that's when it actually happened. That's
Hmm.
probably the one and only time he was ever correct.
Gotcha. Okay. So then you're like, what was your first what was your first purchase? Like, were you coming in heavy, or did you like buy a couple of cards, a couple of packs? Like, how are you looking at it at that time? And then how did your like relationship with the game evolve? At least early on.
I was a broke bitch.
Okay.
I I had no money. I basically bought the starter pack, which had cards in it that were actually real cards, and, after the game actually started, I believe I bought 1 or 2 packs. And then it was months before I actually bought anything else because, I just didn't have any money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just, playing it at the most basic level and more than anything, just learning about the community that had already been there for a few months at the time. And, you know, I really got hyped the most once the alpha beta Kickstarter got going, which was late September, early October is when that started. And then, all the excitement that was going on in the Discord around that time, and then occasionally some posts coming out about it. And, that's when I really started getting more into it, even if I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't buying more into it.
I'm curious because what the Discord experience was like back then. Because you're talking about people getting hyped in the Discord. Like how many? If you can compare it to today, for example. I mean, I have to imagine there's multiple times the amount of people here today than there was back then. But what was that atmosphere like compared to today, or what we've seen over the last couple of years?
I would say there was probably upwards of 1,500 people that were in the chat at that time. I don't know how. I mean, it felt like it was as busy as it is these days in um, the tavern because back then
Yeah,
I don't think they had Mavericks chat yet.
gotcha. Okay. So
And
I
so
guess that.
basically, the majority of the people were all in one singular channel, and
Mhm.
so it was as busy as it is these days.
So that's kind of what I was driving at. I was curious to see like maybe we still have the same amount of people just with the turnover, right? So people kind of come and go. Is it like are we still at 1,500 ish people in Discord?
In Discord, I don't really know. I honestly it's hard to even judge how many people are actually in there versus just the same people over and over again talking. It's
Yeah.
very hard to judge that. But as far as gameplay and, matches and everything, I would say that we are probably back to where we were in, at the very least, beta era, if not alpha era of, 1,000-ish plus people that
Yeah.
are actively doing something multiple times a week.
Gotcha. Okay, just for people like myself who weren't around, can you give a little bit of a timeline? So, or going back to the timeline, 2018, we kind of know already. You got in, there was a little bit hype. The game launched in October. What did 2019 look like?
A lot of waiting. Well,
A lot of
okay.
waiting. Okay,
Well, let's put it this
sounds a
way.
lot like another year.
Well, you have to put it this way because when beta release came out, it was alpha beta release because basically the Kickstarter was initially promoting alpha, and they ran out of alpha because they had sold out, and so they immediately went into beta card sales so that anyone that bought into the Kickstarter, uh, they would be getting beta packs instead of alpha packs. Whereas people that are buying directly from the game, they were getting alpha packs until they ran out.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so when the game initially started, it right around the end of the Kickstarter, then they promised that, oh, well, tournaments are next, and we waited, and about 4 months later, we finally got our first version of tournaments, and it was that challenge version that was a wild mess of people manually doing tournaments and then using a third party website to track the tournament results, and it was a total mess, but it was the only thing that we knew at the time, so we thought it
Yeah.
was amazing. but
Yeah. Yeah. So,
but
but there was ranked play at that time, right?
yes, ring
And
play had been out. That
okay.
was what started in the end of October.
And back then there
And
was still like the ECR system. You could play forever, right, and earn rewards and such.
yes, and every day. Well, okay, the first week or so, it may have been longer than that, but the first week or so, um, there was only one, um, what's it called whenever you start a match and you have the different types
Oh,
of
oh, rule
match.
set. Yeah, it was just like a
Yeah,
standard
there
rule
was
set.
only one rule set per day, and so
Oh,
every
wow.
24 hours would change. And so that was very it was easy, or it was fun for us because,
That's all you
we were
knew.
very new to everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
we didn't know what the future would be like for that. So we thought it was great. And also every day you would get a chance to win beta packs. So you would win a beta pack if you completed X number of matches won in a day, which that was where I got the majority of my packs in the early times of Splinterlands until around November. And November is when I finally FOMOed in and I did something that was very crazy at the time, and I mean I still think it's crazy, but I used a service to give myself a loan so much
Mm,
that it was about 6 months, a 6 month loan. And I bought $1,000 worth of packs to get into Maverick Chat, which is I think was when Maverick Chat first came out. It was within a couple weeks of it coming out, I believe.
yeah.
And
Fascinating. Okay.
so again, I was broke, and I put this money into it thinking, okay, tournaments are right around the corner. They're right around the corner. They're right around the corner. And 4 months later, they finally came out, and by that point, I had to start paying the money back, and I had to sell a whole bunch of gold cards that I had been accumulating
Oh
ever since.
man.
And honestly, I don't think I ever recovered from that at that level of what I
What you
had.
what you were holding? Yeah. What? So the thing is, was
But
the
I
tournaments?
was preparing for tournaments. I was trying, I was buying and selling stuff on the markets. I was, I don't even know where I got the Steam at the time to do that because I didn't put any other money in but that. So I must have been buying and selling cards and just maybe selling packs or something along the way that I was
Wait, so,
earning
so
every day.
let me ask you that. Like, were tournaments paying out well enough that, like, had they started on time, you would have been making enough to pay back the loan?
I believe so, yeah.
Wow. Okay. I mean, what were they paying out? Because SPS wasn't out yet, so was it just DEC?
DEC wasn't out yet until tournaments. This was
Oh, so
before
what were
DEC.
you playing
They
ranked
were
for every day then? Just the beta packs?
beta packs and Steam.
Oh, they were
Like,
giving out Steam as rewards.
yeah, see, here's the thing about Splinterlands that I have seen from the very beginning. It started with Steam, and then they moved to Deke, and Deke was to get rid of them having to give out Steam all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
then they moved to SPS and uh, then the reward cards, and then bound reward cards. It has been a series of updates, quote unquote updates that has disassociated themselves from actually giving out money or for playing the game.
Yeah.
That has
Well,
been a process.
none the thing. Well, this is my issue with play to earn across the board, because you look at any game right now and none of it's sustainable, right? If you're giving out money, it's got to come from somewhere. Like, either you're
Right.
printing it out of thin
I'm
air.
not saying anything that they're doing was wrong. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
saying seeing it from the beginning versus people that come in and go, "Oh, this is great. I'm getting uh soulbound reward cards," and I'm laughing at them like, "You have no idea what it used to be like."
No, no, I get that, and that's part of the frustration for a lot of people now, is the fact that they do remember that. Even like the class of Chaos Legion, which I'm a part of, they remember getting non soulbound reward cards and think that, like, oh well, now soulbound reward cards suck compared to that. Which, again, I get it. If you're comparing it apples to apples, it does, but I don't know. I still look at it as, like, if they're giving out something that is, well, not necessarily liquid, but if they're giving out SPS every win, like, you're earning crypto. Whatever the value is, you're still earning something that can be sold, bought and sold on the marketplace for real money.
Right.
But
And
to your,
I understand why they did this, that as
mhm,
they transitioned, they were trying to reduce the funds that they were giving out so that they could put it towards actually keeping the game going, you know, hiring new people and all the things that they did
yeah,
to
yeah.
make it better.
What's Oh man, this is fascinating for me now, because I've been here for 3+ years, and I had no idea that they were paying out Steam at the beginning. Because that, like,
Okay,
and
this
again,
this is me trying to remember. I'm not entirely sure that that was the case, but I think they
okay.
were paying out Steam for the end of season rewards. I don't know that they were paying out Steam for actually playing matches, but
Do you remember? Do you
I
remember
really
early
don't
on?
remember it years ago.
Okay, no, that's fair. I mean, look, we're gonna get. I'm sure we'll get fact checked by somebody in the chat. So we'll
But
figure that out
to the
later.
best of my knowledge, there was Steam rewards to some extent, but it was very tiny. You
Yeah,
know, the the main rewards was getting the packs every day.
gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. It just, what's interesting for me is, like, had they stuck with giving out, like, Steam rewards. Like, it would have been interesting if all of a sudden, like, Splinterlands, the company, ended up being, like, the largest whale and holder of Steam, or we'll just say Hive now, right? Because they had just hodled all of their Hive, and were only um, powering down a percentage of whatever the inflation rate was to give out as rewards. I don't know. I'm just thinking about it from like a completely different lens where they're really integrated with Hive because that's the whole argument now, right? That Splinterlands kind of operates completely separately of Hive, which I can understand. That's what they're trying to do, but either way, I don't know. That's just an interesting direction that they had early on to give away rewards in Steam in one in one shape or another. But okay,
Well,
so
see, here's something you probably don't know because you were from Chaos Legion era. There used to be a massive Steam, which also turned into Hive. Uh, it was a stockpile that they were keeping, but it wasn't for the reason you're talking about. It was for what the original Mav chat rewards were, and that was that anybody that was in Mav chat, if you made a post about the game, they would back your post with a
oh, they would upvote you, yeah.
and they used Steam to do that. So they had this massive amount of Steam in their account that they used just for that purpose.
I mean, which is
So in
great.
a way, they were doing what you describe
Mm-hmm.
in a you know
In a different,
secondary
yeah.
way.
Well, actually, that's better for marketing, right? Then you get more people on the Steam or Hive blockchain to learn about the game. They see those rewards, they see those posts shoot up to the top because the rewards are probably massive on that.
Well, they weren't. I mean, they weren't giving full 100% things. I don't know exactly what percentage they were upvoting stuff, but they were upvoting stuff for a good couple years.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Okay. So let's get back to the timeline here because I feel like there's so many rabbit holes we can go down. So we get back to 2019. They launch tournaments. It's new, exciting, and fresh, even if rudimentary compared to today. What's the main like what? And also, what's the time frame for that? Is that like the first half of 2019 or second half of
Yeah,
2019?
first half.
Okay, first half of
I mean,
2019.
that was when um, the challenge versions of
The
tournaments came
tournaments came
about,
out.
and
Okay.
it took like a month or two after that before they finally had a working version of it. I want to say it was probably their first year anniversary that tournaments finally came out, and at the same time, I mean, official tournaments within the game came out, and at
Uh
the
huh.
same time when Dark Energy Crystals came out, and when um, I may be mixing this up, but I think it was around the same time that the first reward cards started coming out
Interesting. Okay. So
because they were trying to again separate themselves from giving out dark energy crystals. Well, I mean, they were giving out dark energy crystals. Okay, maybe no. Maybe the reward cards were later on. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know.
okay.
I'd have to look back at some of the old posts about it and stuff to really dial that in.
Gotcha. Okay, well that's fine. So I know this is like 4, 5, 6 years ago. So what was the next major update after tournaments then?
Uh, guild based things, I believe.
At the time, that must have been exciting, a little bit at least.
Like they had some form of guilds in the very beginning, but it was basically just a join the guild to be in a
Hmm.
group, but not there wasn't like and yeah, I'm almost certain that the guilds was the next thing because then that's what people started using the deep for because they needed the deep to upgrade the buildings in the guilds.
Gotcha. Okay, interesting. So then, so that you get guilds again, just like early version of it. That's late 2019 or like mid 2019. Where is that? Like, what? Give me a time frame.
I can't remember. I
Okay.
probably say mid 2019.
Mid 2019. Okay. Well, we don't have to go necessarily with time frames because I'm sure we can look all this up. So then, like, again, this is more so from your perspective. What's the next major thing that pops up then?
uh, beta sells out. And I know the time frames for the sets and when they came out and sold out. So that's what I mostly remember is when a set started, when it sold out, and the aftermath of each of those
Okay.
in the process. So for
Do you
instance,
remember the dates for that
for it,
for the beta sellout
yeah.
then?
Well, well, for instance, Alpha sold out from it started in April-ish, end of April, and it sold out around October. So it was about 6 months time frame
Okay.
that Alpha sold out. And then Beta went from October of 2018 to around October-ish of 2019. So it took about a year. And that
Gotcha.
was
Okay.
it went from 300,000 packs to 900,000 packs. So even though it took twice as long to sell out, it was 3 times as many packs. So it was selling at a faster rate.
You're talking about Untamed, right?
No, beta.
Oh, beta was. Oh yeah,
Beta
beta was
beta
nine
was
hundred
three.
thousand. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, gotcha. Untamed was 1.5. My bad.
Right. And then Untamed came out, and that at the time was the slowest one, compared to Chaos Legion. Uh, Untamed started at the end of 19 and went to mid it was around mid
Like,
2020.
I thought wasn't it mid 2021?
Or
Because
I
I
mean
thought it. Yeah, it
mid
sold out right
2021.
before I joined.
Yeah, it sold out after um Land sold out. Land sold out first, and then Untamed Path sold out.
Land that was in 2020, right?
Land is when it 2020 is when Land started pre-sales,
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
but it didn't sell out until mid 2021.
Gotcha.
It
Yeah.
was about a 8 to 9 month time frame for Land,
Yeah.
and uh, for Untamed it was about a year and a half. Year and a half or 2 years, something. It was slightly under 2 years, I believe.
Now the thing is, I mean, I hear about this all the time, and I'm sure people have different perspectives just based on how integrated they are with the community. But I remember hearing a lot of sentiment regarding that time period, like mid Untamed, because it took like a year and a half to sell out. That there was a lot of the same general unhappiness, right, or just frustration or impatience
Every set there was unhappiness by people that thought it
that
wasn't
bought.
selling that fast
Okay,
enough, or the price of the packs were
too high or something.
too high, or no. The price of packs were nice until Untamed came about, because every pack, Alpha, Beta, and Untamed were $2 a piece, and they sold on secondary market usually around $1 to $1.50 each.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cards themselves would sell for way less than either of those, because people were flipping packs to get the good cards in the packs, and they were selling the rest if they already had enough copies of whatever they needed.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, hold on. I'm gonna go back just because something came to my mind. You said DEC came out first during the tournaments, right?
Around that time, yes, I
Around that
believe.
time. So was it also in 2019 that they launched it for like ranked battles? Was that a big deal, or do you not really remember what happened with it?
No, Ranked Battle was in 2018. That was the first. I mean, what you when the game started where you can actually use the cards to play, that was 2018, end of 2018.
Oh, and so DEC launched with that
No, DEC launched with tournaments in
tournaments.
2019.
Okay, but when did DEC become the primary thing that you earn from every ranked battle?
I believe when it came out.
Oh, okay. So around that time, DEC
In other
just
words, they swapped out giving Steam or whatever it was
or
they were giving
packs. Yeah,
packs, and
gotcha.
then they went from Deke to Chess, and the Chess had the Deke, and I think when
Like
Chess
the
came
reward
out,
cards.
reward cards came out, so they had Chess reward chests that had reward cards, DC, and potions. And then over time, they have adjusted what was in the chest until it got to the point where it is now.
Interesting. Okay. Cool, cool. So, sorry, I just wanted to go back because I'm trying to get the full timeline here. So then we get into 2020. 2020 is probably just a long year of Untamed not selling out, probably similar to like what Chaos Legion was like in 2022. You get the land sale towards the end of that year. People get
And a
excited
lot of
about
hype
that.
to the land sale starting.
A lot of
A
waiting
lot
for
of
it.
2020 was a lot of 2020 was them hyping up that land was the
Was
land
coming.
presale. Yeah,
Now, were they doing these like weekly AMAs at that time? Like, when did that start?
yeah. That weekly AMAs started probably within the first 6 months
Wow.
of
Okay.
so yeah, there are things out there. I don't know if it's on the main channel or if it was. I know some of the very first instances of them talking about Steam Monsters was on Agro's YouTube channel,
Okay. Gotcha.
but then they eventually had their own.
Their own channel. Yeah, that makes sense. Huh.
But
Okay.
yeah, you could probably because
Go back
most
and
of the
find it
time I
somewhere.
watch YouTube on TV, so I can't go back. Hit the little button that shows the oldest videos, so it's very hard for me to do that. So you could go on their official YouTube channel and probably see
J-
exactly when they started posting regular uh, town halls.
I want to see. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna see if I can like look that up now. Just on their channel. Let's see.
Yeah,
So Splinterlands. Like, I want to see when the first upload was. I think that'd be
again, the first one was not actually on that channel, but the
okay.
first
So
one most people know of is
yeah, yeah.
there.
Well, I just want to see when they got active on the channel. So let's see. They have a welcome to Splinterlands video. And what's the date on this? Does it have one? It just says 4 years ago. Unless I click in. Oh, July 17th, 2020.
It's possible that there was videos before that were named Steam Monsters. Like they may have had a
Yeah,
Steam
yeah.
Monster
No. I get
channel
that.
as
I know.
well.
I know what you're saying. I'm just curious when they would have transitioned to the Splinterlands official website. But okay, or Splinterlands official YouTube channel. So that was like mid 2020. So 2020 was a lot of waiting, or were there other like tournaments came through, guilds? Was it all just kind of like small incremental updates that were it's hard to remember like when stuff happened because it was like small and frequent or infrequent?
Yeah, it's pretty much like it is nowadays, where you might get one nugget of information new about once a month that something new is coming or something new is being updated or whatever. It was very incremental, just like it is nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say, I mean, and maybe this year is a little bit of an anomaly just because Matt, came in and had an agenda to really change things from the bottoms up. But it does feel like this year, I mean, this year so many things have been changed, right? Like the whole reward system was changed, the whole rank system was changed. That was back in
Yeah,
April.
they're cleaning up
Yeah.
messes that they made
Yeah.
years ago. They just
Then you,
let fester because they were so busy doing new things
yeah.
that they were, you know.
Well, all I'm trying to say is that like this year seems like it's full of like major. They may seem minor, but they're actually somewhat major changes, right? Because like a ranked play overhaul, then you had a rewards overhaul, then you had the addition of excuse me, like a addition of the wild season pass, right? That was in June, I think. Um, I don't know. It seems like well, I guess maybe to your point, right? Like it's just a bunch of small updates that, when you look back on it, they were all small at the time, but they add up over time.
Right.
Okay, so let's go back to 2021 because that's around the time that I joined in. What was the first half of that year like? Because one thing that I hear all the time and people kind of meme about it now is just the fact that they kept teasing an announcement, right? So it sounds like in 2020 they were teasing and announcing land that finally comes out, and then in 2021 they kept on teasing this announcement of SPS.
Yes. They
What do you remember of that?
I believe they started teasing about SBS at the beginning of the year of 2021, and um, it was well, I think they had a white paper that came out several months before it came out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know exactly how far. Probably around April of 2021 that they finally got the white paper out. But they talked about
Okay.
the white. They talked about all these things that they were planning on doing with SBS, and the whole 5 year cycle afterwards, and all that. Which at the time it all sounded like, oh, this means all our stuff is going to start going up in price, which it did for a very
Yeah,
short period.
it did. Well, I mean, hey, it accomplished its goal. It crashed afterwards.
I would say the things that I remember most about 2021 was how excited people were for land, that it was coming soon. We did the
Mm,
pre-sale, then they finally sold out of all the packs or all the plots. And but I will say this, they took so long to release the the plots from people that bought in groups. And it screwed up so many things because they waited so long to do that. Because there was people that bought all these plots in groups, and then they couldn't distribute it out to the other people to buy and sell them freely, because it was only under the group's owner. Whoever started the group that was buying a bulk amount of land, uh, they were the sole accessor to it, and they weren't splitting up the tracks and the uh the regions
mm-hmm.
yet.
That okay, so well, that didn't even happen until like one land 1.5
Right.
or land 1.0
No,
came out.
1.1 is when,
Yeah,
or 1.0 is when
it
that
was when
finally happened.
yeah, because I
Or
remember.
shortly before that. No, yeah, you're right. There was like a point 0.5 version, and that's when they released the plots to be distributed. And then
Distributed.
1.0
Yeah.
is could actually uh uh set them or whatever in
Yeah.
their area.
No, that makes sense. All right. Well, so 2021 is where I come in. So it'll be fun to kind of compare notes from this point onward.
Well,
So
the reason I say that 2021 was a lot about land and SBS and all that was because land, when it finally sold all the pre-sales, most of the plots were selling for 15 to $25. And then once all the pre-sale plots were sold, then most of them were 25 plus, and then it just kept going up and up and up because they kept hyping that, oh,
mhm.
land is coming, land is coming. And it wasn't until about the end of 2021 that we're like, oh wait, it's not even close to being ready to start. And so by that time everything had crashed. And so there was a time that you could buy an unclaimed plot for like $1,000. And I remember having about 200 plots that I had access to, that were single plots that I was selling, in the $400 to $500 range, and I had bought them from $9 to $15.
Well, two of the plots that I purchased were the first one was 500, the second one was 400. So maybe I bought one from you, actually, looking back at that time. Because to your point, I remember that. I remember first coming in and hearing about this land thing. It's going to launch soon, and I was like, oh, I need to get a plot. They're all sold out, so I just want to participate. I'm not going to be a big landholder, and yeah, I forked it up, which was not the best thing to do, but that is what it is.
Although speaking of the land pre-sales, I did another stupid thing that I probably shouldn't have done, but I did it anyways. And just like in 2018, where I had gambled $1,000 that I didn't have in hopes that the thing would come out at a certain time, I did the same thing for land. I took money that I already had in crypto plus cash that I had plus a loan, and I put like $2,700 into buying land in the pre-sales and the yeah, the first pre-sale that I could get into, which was the second one, because the first one sold out literally instantly. And then the second pre-sale I got in and I bought like I want to say two to 300. It was probably 300 plus because I paid $9 fees for them, and then I took those and I sold about half of them for equal or more than what I spent on it, and then I got in on the last pre-sale when it was like $15 a piece. Yeah, buying in bulk. If you bought them
Hmm.
single, they 20. And so I I wound up with about 200 plots when it was all said and done.
Now, does this story have a happy ending, or are you still hanging on to those plots, or did you let
I
some of
have
them go?
I have all the plots that I originally had after I had sold those plots for well, okay, I sold plots in several cycles. I sold them I sold a bunch in the beginning to to uh to buy into other things at the time that I was doing it, which didn't end so well, but I didn't lose any money. And then I took what I had left and I bought back into land, and that's when was able to sell some of those for way more than I originally bought them for.
Hmm.
But I took that money and I put it into SPS at its near peak. But I
Dang.
didn't do it initially. I had a plan that I thought was pretty solid at the time. I put it into Chaos Legion packs, and I didn't want to keep them. I wanted to cycle them. So I just basically bought them for the bonus rewards that would come from it, and then I immediately sold them for a slight loss. And I put that money into um I think I put that into I put it into something else before I eventually landed on buying uh SPS, and that's where it really went downhill. Is once I got the SPS, within like a month or two of getting that, it just kept going
It
down
just
and
kept
down.
going down. I know. It's just been a one-way roller coaster trip.
And in
It's like,
fact, I bought it in two cycles, the SPS, both at like half of what I originally had bought it for. And so I lost a lot from that. But what I lost was just what I had gained from selling the plots. So in reality, I still had my land and I still had as much land as I originally intended on keeping, and I still had something from it. You know, even though the SPS wasn't worth as much anymore, I still had something that was usable.
hmm.
Uh, but yeah, I lost a lot of value from doing that.
Gotcha. Okay.
But, but yes,
Well, can I ask something? And feel free to not answer it if you want. But like, you came in so early, and this is probably complicated and complex now because of the fact that you've bought and sold, and you've had a lot of economic activity. But would you say that you are like in the green right now, or are you kind of like in the red with everybody else that joined during Chaos Legion?
I am in the green for
You're in the
sure.
green. Okay. Oh, for sure.
But
Okay.
but the value of what my stuff is now versus what it was at its peak of 2021 is probably a tenth of the value that it was. maybe even less than that.
Got well, I
Even
mean,
though I
but
haven't sold
everybody,
very much
yeah.
past uh, Chaos Legion coming out.
But that's the same for everybody. The only reason I ask is because I'm curious on your perspective moving forward. Obviously, I'm sure you've been frustrated with a lot of the missteps that have happened over the last couple of years. But does it sting a little bit less knowing that, like, hey, I still have more than I put in?
No, does not
Fair
seem a little
enough.
less because what I
Fair
know
enough.
it was worth at the time that I could
Yeah.
have sold and I didn't because it was my first bear or first bull market that I actually had something of value. Because the
Yeah.
first time it went through, I didn't have nothing of in 2018. There
Yeah.
I had nothing on me, basically a couple $100 worth of stuff. But when 2021 bull came, I had I had a
Yeah.
lot more than I ever would have imagined I could possibly have gotten in a three-year period, and I was stupid and not at least selling out some into cash, cashing out some of it, and I
Yeah.
didn't. I mean, I cashed out, a couple thousand, but compared to what I had, I
Yeah.
I deeply regret not doing more than that.
Well, look, I mean, it's the same story all around. I'm sure. I mean, I have a lot, not even just within Splinterlands, but there's a lot of tokens that, or just a lot of projects, things that I was in that I took the round trip on, right, on that time period. And looking back, it's like, ah, should have learned how to sell. I mean, definitely within Splinterlands, I was not even. It wasn't even I was not selling. I was buying. Right. I remember that the largest or the most that I ever spent on SPS. Sorry, not the most I spent, but the highest price I ever bought SPS, and this was a decent sized chunk, was at 80 cents, which is like, oh god, that feels awful today thinking about that. Um,
Made you feel dirty after doing the math on that, right?
oh yeah, well because I actually played it smart. In September of 2021, I had
That's
just
what I'll
discovered the game.
say. Oh yeah, I played it smart.
Huh? Well,
I
no, no.
I,
Well,
I have a
no.
system.
So here's the thing. In September of 2021, before Chaos Legion was announced, I was like, all right, I think I like this game. Let me go heavy and grab a bunch of SPS. SPS had dipped from 35 cents down to like 20 something, right? Like 20 to 25 cents. And I got probably one of the biggest chunks that I've ever gotten there. Over the next month, I saw that thing do a 4x, right? To go from, 25 cents all the way up to a dollar, and I didn't sell because I was stupid and I was like, oh, I want more, right? I was definitely in the hype train and or the hype cycle and tuning into the AMAs every week, and then SPS hits or it dips from a dollar down to 80 cents. And I'm like, oh, here it goes dipping again. This thing is probably going to go up to $10. So let me go and buy in more at 80 cents. When really what I should have been doing was taking my risk off the table at that time with, riding that 4 to 5x up. But it is what it is, man. I'm here now with lessons learned.
I'm rich in lessons, poor in cash, or poor in um, liquidity.
There you go. That's a good way to put it. So, okay, I think we covered most of the time period before I joined. We don't have to go year by year analysis from here on out, but like between when things finally cooled down from the bull market, right? So we'll say probably by middle of 2022 to where we're at now, like what have been the biggest things that have jumped out to you? I mean, I know we've gone through 2 rounds of layoffs. There was a Splinter Fest somewhere in there. There's been a lot of massive changes. But where does that, what are the biggest things there, and where does that leave you now when you think about Splinterlands in the future?
I think Splinterlands is at the early days of reaching back to its original glory of starting over, like of early 2019-ish era of hype leading to more people coming in, leading to uh, more resources for the company, leading to more fun for everybody. And
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean that it leads to more revenue for anyone that tries to buy in, but it does mean there would be more fun things to come about when they have a higher amount of developers working on things that they either have already promised or new things after that point. And I like I said before we even started this, that despite all the bad things that have happened throughout my history of Splinterlands, I still to this day think that if I had $10,000, I would put it in Splinterlands.
Wow, really?
At
That's
whatever point in time of Splinterlands, I stick by that notion.
interesting. Okay, so you have. I mean, that's. And here's the thing. I mean, I know that there are people spending a lot of money on the game, right? You see a lot of the larger names, Azurkhan, Brave Tofu, right? Crypto Eater Bug. Does that they're constantly buying, but like you have that conviction too, or is
I
it
would
something where
say
it's easier to say it because you don't have the
it's
10K?
founders conviction.
Huh?
It's
It's
founders conviction.
in Matt.
People that have been there from the beginning, that have
Okay,
seen the cycles that they have seen throughout Splinterlands, they know that there are dips and there are high points, and as long as you time things better, you can you can scoop something from it every time and
interesting.
slowly build
Okay.
your uh your
Well,
portfolio.
let me play devil's advocate for a second because and you've been in crypto longer than me, so you've seen these cycles play out more than I have. My, one of the big fallacies here that I'm worried about is what, that every project is going to pump, right? I saw it because I lived through two cycles, 2017 and then 2021, where I mean, we were talking about EOS earlier, right? And all these projects that were super hot and super popular in 2017 were not even mentioned in 2021. And Splinterlands, even though it kind of launched in 2018, it's only had one real bull run, which was in 2021. And again, I mean, I have a lot of the same conviction as you that something good is going to happen for Splinterlands. Don't get me wrong, but
Well, oh wait, you're wrong on that. That was
okay.
not the only bull run that happened with Splinterlands. There was a bull run in 2019 when the whole things going on with J6969.
Oh wow, we totally skipped over that whole thing and the migration to Hive.
But yes, there was a bull run between that time period, and
What
it was big for people that had the money to invest in that time period that I didn't have at that.
what caused that bull run? Because that's very off cycle.
When J69 first came in, he was spending a lot of money, and
Okay,
he
so this is just
also
one person coming
bought,
in.
even though he told everyone he wasn't botting, he was botting. He had this team of bots that were dominating the leaderboards, and because of that, everybody was trying to beat the bots. So everybody was spending mad amount of money that were at that level trying to beat them because they were frustrated that he was winning all these. He was basically the top 10 winners of the leaderboard every season for like, I don't know, a couple months.
Yeah,
And
interesting. Okay.
but at the same time, when he finally uh, had this tiff with Agrod about the whole NFT being a real NFT or not, that's when things uh, well, that's when things went sour with him. But it actually helped the economy even more because then he did a massive fire sale, and all these people that couldn't afford certain things at the time were able to afford all these cards that they couldn't at that time, and so that a lot of people bought in whenever he sold out. And I would imagine some of the people that are still hanging around are people that bought from J69 back then.
So when you see a lot of folks today scooping up super cheap assets like Beta and Untamed and a lot of these older cards now because they couldn't get them 2 3 years ago, is that the same kind of vibe, or is it different these days?
The people that are buying uh, Alpha Beta Untamed are mostly landowners these days.
Okay,
I
interesting.
would say not very many people play. Um, I mean, I don't know particularly, but I would imagine that not very many people that play Wild are playing with Alpha Beta Untamed cards. They're playing with Chaos Legion and Replay.
Sure. Okay, I guess I was specifically looking at like maybe some of the untamed legendary summoners, right? Like I see a lot of folks who are like, "Oh, this card finally came down in price. I'm gonna grab it now," right? For like a kitty or a Yodin or a llama or something like that.
I would say people that buy those are probably players
Hmm.
because they're still viable in tournaments. But for Wild, I don't know that there's many of those summoners that are still viable for playing against the newer sets because they have, the big thing about Alpha Beta and Untamed was it was very um, balanced between them. They were not trying to what's the word whenever the power creep.
Power
There
creep.
wasn't
Yeah.
any power creep with those cards, but as soon as Chaos Legion came out, then some power creep started happening, and I think that's when people started going, "Why am I bothering paying all these high prices for these cards when I could buy Chaos Legion and still play Wild for cheaper?"
Well, Wild wasn't even a thing until mid 2022. So, or sorry, no,
Well, that's what I'm talking about. That
yeah, yeah,
that time whenever Wild whenever they split it.
yeah, yeah. Gotcha. All right, hold on. I just want to go back to not the J69 because we talked about that and that's been documented. But like, what do you remember of the migration to Hive? Like, was that a big deal? Were you at any point like kind of worried
Yeah.
about the integrity of the blockchain and all that?
There there's a great article that talks about the the story of going from Steam to Hive
Mm-hmm.
and everything that went along with J69, not J, with
Justin Sun.
Justin Sun taking over Steam, and I was there through all of it. It was a crazy time, but I didn't have any doubt that once Hive was announced, that we couldn't just, basically swap over to that
Fork
and
everything
leave everything
over.
on Steam.
Gotcha.
And it's but Hive was out for several months before Splinterlands switched over to Steam. I mean, switched over to Hive. They basically waited until
Everything was like smooth and
right
ready.
before they did that. In fact, I think that was one of the first instances they started doing the whole tech monetization thing.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Interesting. Um,
Not that that was necessarily related, but I'm just saying it was
yeah,
around
yeah.
that.
It was an opportunity for them to upgrade some of the code.
Right.
Okay.
Because from my understanding, everything that Yaba did in the beginning was very much spaghetti code compared to what the tech monetization versions are. And so
Yeah,
any instance can to upgrade his code, they have tried to, better optimize for larger
yeah,
amounts
yeah.
of people and so on.
That makes sense. Okay, so sorry, I just want to do that trip down memory lane for those two events because we totally skipped over them. But now coming back to where we are today, you seem to have a lot of conviction in the sense that this thing is moving forward in one way or another. And I would say that especially now. maybe like a couple months ago you had people leaving, and maybe at the beginning of the year people weren't sure how, post rebellion Matt would handle certain things.
In
But
every set, there have been hordes of people that left because they
mhm,
didn't like what the changes were going on. Doesn't mean that it has a lot to do with like the people that are very vocal versus the people that are in the shadows accumulating. So the
and
people
you
that are very vocal
yeah.
are more likely to be the ones that left because they don't like the changes and they're not willing to evolve throughout the process of the game being better for the community.
Mhm. So let me ask you this then. In 2021, DEC, like the launch of SPS, and then the subsequent like DEC going like 15x its peg at some point, that brought a lot of people in because the rewards being paid out was absurd. Will that, like, because we've closed so many exploits and loopholes, one of my it's not really a concern, but just something that I think about, like one of the things looking forward is if they've closed off a lot of those, do you think that we'll get the same kind of influx of players if there's not some way to massively profit off of the system? And again, I'm not. I would like the game to be in a position where it grows sustainably over time and we don't have these like boom bust cycles. But that's kind of just how crypto goes at the same time. Or do you see this differently, where we've closed up enough things, and if enough people come in, then there will be that slow and steady growth, and the bull run's just going to add more people than a bear market would?
I think that the way Matt is gearing the whole economy and the gameplay is trying to go back towards the roots of it being a slow and steady increase of players and influx of money over time. And I don't think there's going to be as many or any new major explosions of high priced things that's going to draw people in quickly, kind of thing, because that's where
Mm-hmm.
everything wrong with Splinterlands.
Because we
Yeah,
went into a very unsustainable bubble that was going to pop at
right,
some point. Okay.
right. I think the way Matt is trying to do things is he's trying to bring back the kind of uh, slow but steady buildup of economy and player base. And I really don't think there's going to be that much of a an explosion anymore. That doesn't mean that the bull runs won't cause an explosion in value of certain things, but it's not going to be like what Deke did.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Well,
In
I'm
fact, the only thing I think that could possibly go up very quickly would be SPS, and that would only be from an influx of people coming in.
yeah. Yeah, well, and that's so and this kind of goes towards the
People that pay.
flywheel mechanism being in place, right? I know it's a buzzword, but at the same time, you get enough people, and enough doesn't have to be like 100,000. Enough could be like
Oh,
just a couple thousand coming in wanting a
if
decent
we had
stack.
10,000 humans playing the game, even if half of them were alts, if we had 10,000 humans playing the game, I think this game's economy would be way more uh, sustainable than it is right now.
Yeah.
I mean, not
Yeah,
not
true.
sustainable now, but it's
Uh,
not sustainable for the company versus the player. The players are fine. It's the
yeah.
company that still has trouble with such a low amount of players coming in.
Yeah, well, part of that is because the rewards have gotten so low, but I'm actually quite encouraged
I don't
by
think the
SPS.
rewards being low has anything to do with the people leaving. Not it's not the main reason people are leaving.
What do
I
you
think
think is
the
the
main
main
reason
reason?
people are leaving is the changes to how things are run are completely different than what they were even a couple of years ago,
Okay,
and
that's fair.
then from there has been different from what it was in the beginning. So
Well, even you made the
if
comment
if
about
the
how like
majority of the people if the majority of the people that are still hanging around are people that are 4+ years into this game, and the people that leave are generally 4+ years, 2 to 3+ years, have been around at least, then any sort of major changes that they see that they don't like, they're just gonna nope out of it and sell off. But the thing is, I have seen every single uh, set come out and seen these groups of people that nope out whenever some major thing comes along, and it doesn't ruin the game. If enough cash flow is buying up the stuff that's selling, it doesn't affect anything.
Yeah.
It's the same cycling of cards and tokens and everything else.
Well, okay, so I do think that low rewards is a factor. It's not the entire thing. I'll agree that massive changes is part of the reason that I know many players have left. But I will say that low rewards is probably the biggest reason that we're not getting in a lot of players right now, at least from like a crypto ROI boy sentiment, right? I mean, granted, where it's been a bear market and the team's not doing any marketing, but it's like if the
No,
team didn't
no,
have to do any
but
marketing to
no.
bring in a bunch
Here's
of people.
what is going on is we're losing more people than we're taking in. But that doesn't mean that we're losing more people or taking in because of the reward changes. It's just because people leave all the time. And if you have it's like calories in, calories out. If you're burning more calories than you're taking in, then you're going to lose weight continuously and vice versa. And we are at such a level of player base that it's player base that's not coming in, that it's just hard to maintain weight, maintain
Okay, so then
equilibrium.
what gives you the conviction to say something like, if I had $10,000, I would throw it into Splinterlands right now? What makes you think that new players will come in, or what is going to be the driver that will make them come in?
Well, those are two different questions, but I would say what makes me convinced that I can still do that is because ever since I put my first dollar in this game, there has been an endless sink of money that you could put into one particular section of the game that you could dominate by doing so. And I've never really dominated in any of the sections because I've always played it spread out between multiple things. And only in the last few years have I hyper focused on land instead. And because of that, I'm actually starting to climb the ranks of research, which, at the time it is currently a complete sink of money to do so, but
Yeah.
I understand that the future of that, when it eventually comes out, will be to my benefit.
Okay, so you're going heavy on land then. That's cool. What? Hold on, I lost my train of thought here. So you're going heavy on land. My hold on. Let me get back to the question that I was asking, because I think I said it confusingly. It wasn't meant to be two questions. It was just like, where do you think the new players are going to come from? So right now we're, as you said, we're a net loss on calories, right? People are leaving the game. What is going to be the catalyst then that brings people into the game, in your opinion, that will help us start or jumpstart the growth?
I would say when the new player experience comes out and they hire a new uh, marketing person, because we haven't even touched on any of the stuff with the cycles of marketing people that we have had throughout the years
Mm,
since I've but we've had at least three different marketers in all the years that I've been here. And I would say that um, every single time they've brought on a new marketer, it has helped. But I wonder how much of it helping it has to do with um, them just turning on the marketing versus not having any. You know,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not like that they did a good job of marketing, just that
that they're doing something.
They're doing it versus not doing it. And
Yeah,
I think
like
that's part of I,
if
I
they were.
think I think Splinterlands, the company, is sitting in a dark room and waiting for people to come see their game when nobody can see them because they're in a dark room. And whenever they turn on the light, people are like, "Oh, there's a game in there. I want to go try that out." But whenever the marketer's not there, it's a dark room again, and nobody knows that they're there.
Yeah. Well, the good news is, despite the team being strapped for resources, we're getting that DHF proposal money every day now, which is nice. So at least they have a budget for that.
If it stays,
Yeah, of course.
I feel like the Hive people versus the Splinterlands people are still kind of at each other's necks about that. And I have seen it dip below that point, and I've seen them raise the DHF limit to be starting to pay out several
Hmm.
times since the proposal. Um, but yeah, if they can consistently get that money and they can start putting it towards a marketer, or at the very least start putting it towards keeping things more equilibrium to everything, then that'll be great. But that's a big if.
True. Well, at
As
least
far as
they.
people
Yeah.
getting people to come in, the marketing is one part. Getting people to talk about the game is the other part, and that's
Hmm.
something that Agro has talked about, that Matt has talked about ever since they're very. Have you ever looked at some of the videos that they have done in their early years where they were going to these conventions and talking to people about Splinterlands and all the
No.
stuff they talked about? Because they talked about what the future of the game was going to be like, and there's so much of that game that has already come to pass, but there's so much that hasn't.
Uh huh.
And it's the stuff that hasn't that drew the people in to begin with, and they've taken, and under Agro's uh control, they went in so many different wrong directions with what they prioritized.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that Matt is now in control and doing things in a better, more logical way of you know
Just focusing
going through
on
the
a
step
game.
versus going, "Ooh, I want to do that. Ooh, I want to do that."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's one thing to go in a bunch of different directions if you have the resources for it, but I think that was the biggest frustration is that nothing was getting done with Splinterlands, right? So if all of these different partnerships, whatever, had brought in their own capital so that you can go and hire more people for that, that's one thing. But it seemed like Agrid was just trying to take a ton of stuff on his plate. Cool, man. Well, this has been super fun. I said, I appreciate you reaching out and wanted to go through, especially a lot of those early years. I mean, I'm definitely bullish on Splinterlands overall in terms of heading into a bull run again. I don't know where things are going to end up, but I cannot imagine if Bitcoin is setting new all time highs next year, and we get into a little bit of a better macro situation, that's not going to filter down into SPS and Splinterlands overall, and potentially organically bring some people to check out the game. Which, again, even like you said, 10,000 people, 10,000 humans wanting and needing SPS to play and to participate can change this game dramatically. And yeah, I think there's a viable path to do it, right? Like if we were sitting here and saying like, oh, this game needs like 500,000 players to be successful again, I'd be like, okay, well, this is a little delusional. But looking at the numbers, looking at where we're at, it's like, okay, I mean, even as Azarcon said, if there were 100 people at Brave Tofu's level or whoever's like buying a bunch of stuff right now that came in because they wanted to be whales in the game, that would like make things very scarce very fast. I don't think we're going to get 100 whales, but even just a couple players, a couple thousand
Oh, we
players
already
that
have
are at my level.
we
Yeah,
already have 100 whales in the game. We probably have 300 whales in the game.
yeah,
Whales in the sense that they're in the top 100 in their respective thing, either ranked or land or tournaments
hmm,
or guild stuff
exactly.
for
Yep,
all.
yep. So Any yeah, so like I said, I'm bullish like you, but any final thoughts you want to share? Anything we didn't quite cover?
Well, we didn't cover anything about what led me to wanting to do any crypto gaming in the first place, but
Oh man, that was at the beginning. Yeah, I thought it was just Steam that came through. All right, let's cover that then.
um I was a Magic the Gathering player early on.
Mm,
I
okay,
started uh I want to say 97-ish. So, like 4 years into Magic the Gathering. But at the time, I was a teenager, so I didn't have any money. So
mm-hmm,
it
mm-hmm.
was the same thing. You would go to a card shop and haggle your way into having enough cards to actually have a deck or two to play, or buy the starter decks and then optimize them to with extra cards to do things that it wasn't meant to do. And that's where I started with any kind of collecting of playing cards like that. And as far as land with Splinterlands, I see that as the next form of many years of me playing MMO games
With
and
land,
learn. Huh?
you said with land.
Yeah, with land. So learning how to deal with economies with crafting and buying and selling on auction houses and you know transporting the stuff, which I know will eventually be a thing, hopefully, within the game as well.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you started off with Magic the Gathering, and are you playing any other crypto games then?
Not lately, no. I used to when I was the first few years of Splinterlands, I was taking any profits that I was making, and part of it would go to Splinterlands, and the other part would go towards trying out new things within the crypto community, either
Mm-hmm.
via Steam games, Hive games, and then I played some EOS games. Oh, I invested very early on into uh blanking on the name. The the Voxel game, Sandbox. I
Oh
was
yeah, yeah.
a very early investor into Sandbox for land. Uh and there was a time where it was each plot was worth like $10,000, and I really wish I had sold then too.
Oh my goodness, wow, that's crazy. Man, 2021 was a different time.
So many things I would change if I had had 1/10 the knowledge that I have now.
Yep. That is for sure.
And
Um,
there was Wax. I played a bunch of games on Wax too. And what was it? Alien Planet, the one or no, it was some I don't know. I can't remember the name, but there was one that shot up like crazy, and I got in early on that, and I didn't sell when and it crashed very quickly, and I
uh-huh.
really wish I had of. That also involved land, and there wasn't even really a game. It was one of those games where you had all these elements and you were mixing them together to make new elements. I can't remember. It was on Wax. I'm sure I'll remember as soon as I get off
I'm
this.
just not as familiar as with Wax. Yeah, fascinating, man. All right, well, we can go ahead and wrap up here, man. This is like I said, it's been super fun. I'm sure we'll probably end up doing a round two at some point. All right, I'd like to if you're down, especially once hopefully things start to get rolling here. But any final thoughts or anything you want to leave the viewers with? A little bit of hopium.
Don't sell your good stuff. Hold it until it's worth money again,
Don't
and
sell
then
your good
sell it.
stuff and then sell it. Well, you know what? And again, look, I don't know what financial situation people are in, and so I'm not gonna tell somebody what to do. But whenever people are like, "Oh, I'm selling out now," I'm just like, this does not seem like the best time. But it's just my
Oh, I
opinion.
know exactly the best time to sell. I remember this years ago that they talked about how the best time to sell is when people are talking about buying islands.
That's true. That's true. So the moment the island talk comes back, I think we'll all be heading for the sell button for sure. Quantum Nacho, this has been fun, man. I appreciate you coming on and taking the time. I'm sure a lot of people will appreciate your insights from the first or the early years, and I'm sure we could even deep dive further into that if people want. But thank you again for coming on.
Oh, there's going to be a lot of editing to this video.